great honour to be elected to Fellowship of the Academy, so I do thank the Fellows for that. When I arrived today, I ran into Bruce Hobbs, who was the first person I saw, and then Michael Barber and a number of other people in this room, and it reminded me actually of my history in the last 25 years in research management in Australia, which I think is one of the reasons I have been granted the honour of Fellowship of the Academy. And I did want to mention a little bit about that. Most recently, though, before I get to research management, I'm Chair of Universities Australia, which is a great privilege as well, and one of the things I've been doing over the last couple of years, particularly since we launched the Keep It Clever campaign last year, is to put very firmly on the agenda with the Commonwealth in terms of advocacy the importance of science, technology, engineering and mathematics as a core characteristic of changing the Australian economy and the critical role that universities play in achieving that. It's a theme we've followed up with throughout the last 18 months in particular to ensure that both for the government and also for the federal opposition, we continue to push very strongly to keep innovation in the forefront. Larry mentioned the National Innovation and Science Agenda a little earlier in his presentation, and that's a welcome initiative, but there's so much more we need to do to ensure that Australia's universities are well placed in the future to drive the economic transformation that this country requires, and STEM is at the core of that. And so my role at UA is an important part of that. I've been a Vice-Chancellor at two Australian universities, Western Sydney and Charles Darwin University in Northern Australia. And I'm very proud of those two long-standing Vice-Chancellorships. Before that, I was a Deputy Vice-Chancellor at the University of Newcastle, and Eileen was talking a little bit about her background there. Before that, Pro-Vice-Chancellor Research and Development in Western Australia at Curtin University, worked very closely with Michael Barber and in that context, as we did when he was at Flinders University in Northern Australia, in our relationship between Flinders and CDU. And so I've had a long history of working in collaborative research in this country and facilitating collaboration between universities, CSIRO, industry and government. And hopefully that gives you some context about my background today. But I did want to touch on where I think I can make a contribution, both as Chair of Universities Australia while I'm in that role and as an active Vice-Chancellor in the sector and through the action of my own university, but particularly working closely with the Academy over the course of the next few years and beyond. And as a number of other fellows, new fellows have mentioned today, STEM education is one of those areas I think we all want to work very actively in. And to pick up a theme that's run through a few presentations, I want to pick up on education, balance, gender balance in particular as an area of focus, and we've heard about women in science today, collaboration and quality, but particularly in the last two categories, to pick up the themes that the Academy is promoting so strongly around the importance of research infrastructure in this country and the way we collaborate to support it and ensure that it's properly funded in the long term. So first of all, in terms of education, I've had the privilege recently as Chair of UA of giving keynote presentations to a number of groups around the country. It gives me an opportunity to get out there and not only talk about the Keep It Clever policy statement and what it says about the changing nature of the Australian economy, the changing nature of the labour market of the future, the changing nature of university education in order to meet the requirements of those very important shifts we're seeing economically and into the future. But it gives me an opportunity to push very strongly with groups the importance of STEM education and the importance of the transformation we need to see in STEM education. Two of those groups I just wanted to touch on, which I think are relevant to the contribution I'd like to make with ATSE. First of all, of course, I gave a presentation to the Council of Deans of Education in Australia to talk about initial teacher education programs around the country, to talk about the importance of ensuring that our teaching graduates are coming out with the skills that they need to be able to participate in STEM education, and not simply in the context of secondary education or into tertiary education, but most importantly, to be able to contribute in primary and early childhood education, and so that we have graduates with the skills necessary to enable them to work in classrooms and to use a range of technologies to ensure that STEM education is exciting and vibrant, and it captivates young people in the way we've heard it captivated so many of our new fellows that are speaking today. So initial teacher education training, it's a very topical issue in Australia at the moment as we see governments around Australia beginning to change the nature of entry requirements in terms of initial teacher education. We need to ensure our graduates come out with the right skill sets. The other group that I've spoken to recently are the Deans of Science of Australian universities, and to make them aware of the importance of their teaching and learning programs in Australian universities, to ensure that they provide us with the benchmark when it comes to the use of technology in teaching and learning in relation to science in universities, to ensure that our scientists are in fact learning in the sort of environment we want to see replicated in schools around the country, and also to ensure that we capture those pathways from educational programs through to job opportunities, and we've heard a little bit about that today. The second area I'd like to be able to contribute in a little more is, of course, one we've heard again today, women in STEM disciplines and improving opportunities for women to take up both career opportunities in terms of STEM, but also, importantly, to contribute as mentors in the broad sense of encouraging young girls to come into STEM disciplines. And I extend that also across into Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander students, having spent 5 years in the Northern Territory to encourage more and more Indigenous students into higher education. It's important to ensure that they come into the science, technology, engineering and mathematics disciplines as well. Many Australian universities are part of the SAGE program now that was mentioned by Larry a little earlier. I'd like to see that expanded. It's a very important initiative for supporting women in the science disciplines in Australia. And of course, we need to work very closely with industry and business groups and others to ensure that we have the right partnerships to support STEM. One of the other roles I have at the moment, which is relevant to this, is I'm President of the Board of Trustees of the Museum of Applied Arts and Sciences, sometimes known as the Powerhouse Museum in New South Wales. It is also a very interesting time for the Powerhouse Museum as it's about to undergo, we hope, with the support of the government, a move from Ultimo to Parramatta to create a new museum. And the Museum of Applied Arts and Sciences, I think, fits very nicely in this space. We talk about the ampersand at the museum. We talk about this connection between the applied arts and the sciences, and to bring those together. And this is an area in particular where I think the contribution of women can be quite significant. We want to see much more in that space as we think about museums of the future and the collaboration between a museum like the Powerhouse and universities and business and industry. There are wonderful opportunities to develop new models of collaboration. And I did want to touch on collaboration. ATSE, I think two aspects of this I wanted to mention. I've just come back from an overseas trip to Vietnam and into China. I've worked for many years on enhancing Australia's collaboration internationally. It's a priority for the Academy. I think it's a very important priority. The Academy is already working, I think, on some very important entrepreneurship programs and other relationships internationally, and the list of countries are given there. Unfortunately, I don't think the Commonwealth is investing enough in enabling collaborative research to be undertaken between Australia and countries in our region. I know many people in this room will have travelled in the region on a number of occasions on delegations or to facilitate various forms of collaborative opportunity, and one of the frustrations often is that we don't have an Australian government with the capacity to invest as much as perhaps our partners overseas are willing to invest. And I think this is very important in the science context as well. And I cannot, in talking a little bit about collaboration, I cannot move off this slide without talking about CRCs. I've been involved with CRCs for over 20 years, and there are many people in this room who've been on boards of CRCs with me, whether it's in mining technologies, whether it's coal for sustainable development, whether it's biosecurity. I'm very proud to have been associated with a number of Australia's CRCs from inception through. The AJ Parker, Ian Gould is in the room somewhere I know, The AJ Parker CRC is another great example of that. This is an enduring program that needs continued support, and I'd be very pleased to be working on that. Finally, quality. This is simply to say our national research infrastructure is so critical. I've worked on SKA, I've worked on the Australian synchrotron. I'm working at the moment on the National Particle Therapy Centre, which we need to deliver for Australia and New South Wales. Major research infrastructure properly funded in this country is critical. The Academy plays a vital role in encouraging the Commonwealth to invest. We need to avoid the circumstance we had a year or so ago where we're on the brink of not funding the National Collaborative Research Infrastructure Scheme. I think it's a priority for all of us to ensure that's properly funded, and I look forward to working with the Academy in that regard. Thank you.